It's a good start to the conversation because I told you that, privately, but I think, your fans and your supporters and everyone that supports the band as well, I think it's very important to acknowledge, that you took the time of the day to make something happen that you practically don't get any sort of benefit out of it,
Right.
and you just made it happen for the sake of making something happen.
Right.
And I think this speaks so much about you and who you are as a person and who you are as a band. And, I sort of think that people that support you should know about that,
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things that, a lot of people don't understand is that there are certain structures in place, like in a band's career. Like one of the things that always happen, people like, oh, you guys didn't play a long enough show.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if we are playing a festival, I have an allocated time. I can play only this much.
Yeah.
If I go over there, actually serious final show penalties. Sometimes it's like $1,000 or $5,000 a minute to going over the curfew, right?
Yeah.
If I play with, let's say we on tour with Metallica, I have a 60-minute set. Then that's all we can play. We can't upset Metallica. We can't upset the schedule.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the time slot, right? If it's a headline show, even a headline show, I have a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Right. And people don't understand, like, oh, the set was short. No, it was exactly what we were allowed to play. And then when it comes to interviews and these interactions, right, before we show up here, it's like, because we talk privately.
Yeah.
A lot of people that I do interviews with, or promoters and people in our circle, I generally develop personal friendships with, and then we talk about all kind of stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And so, and then there's this machinery in place where we're about to arrive, and if we didn't have each other's number to talk to each other, I would just have something on the schedule, like, okay, interview in person, television, radio, and then 2 Zoom calls.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know.
Exactly.
Right? And I wouldn't even know what happened.
Yeah.
So in a second I see that, because I'm hands-on with that. So I'm like, hold on. You know what I mean? Like, let's make it into a real interview. Let's not steal the time.
Yeah.
It's like, what else I'm gonna do here anyway?
But I think because I've been in the industry for a while, and as much as myself, that there's so many people and musicians out there that don't have this sort of hands-on approach and this sort of attention to everything behind the scenes.
Right.
And I've met so many people that sure, on the cam, on the video, they're friendly, you talk and stuff like that, but after that, it's like cut in the middle.
Yeah, I guess it's an act to a degree of, like, okay, I have to do this. I mean, like, I'm not gonna judge that, because sometimes touring can be grueling. Sure. This particular part of the tour was, it's a long drive.
Yeah.
We've been driving all night, all day.
Wow.
And then in the middle of the night, we had to get off the bus, because Serbia is not part of the EU, so they have to do passport controls. So you're sleeping, but then you get up, you're at the border for a couple of hours, dealing with that, go back to sleep a few hours, and again, stop, get off the bus, another passport control. So then you don't have these continuous, you don't have enough sleep. And after a few of these, you start to deprive yourself every day a couple of hours. Yeah. Give it 2 weeks, and then you're agitated, you start to get angry, you start hurting, you start to not recuperate, and I can see how people get sour and get short with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can see that. So I'm not going to judge it, because I know that it can get brutal. It sounds like, oh, you guys are rock stars, man. You're traveling a bird and everything's cool. Yeah. And no, there's a lot of work involved, and it doesn't matter that my head is about to fall off or explode, and I still have to go on stage and play. And if I had a splitting headache, I still have to go on stage, play the show, and the audience cannot know that I'm in pain.
But I think it's important to give the flowers to even people such as yourself, who, even when you are, you're subject of such circumstances that the people that are listening to you don't know about, you still feel responsible to portray yourself with integrity and with respect to everyone that, is not supposed to even know about that.
Right.
Because, not everyone is like that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, correct. But that's what this is. That is the, in quote, the job. I mean, I don't feel like it's a job. We having a lot. This is what we do. I love what we're doing, so I don't see it as a job. But for the, for the expression's sake,
Yeah.
that's the job. These people have their own lives and their own problems, right? But they collected their money and bought a ticket,
Do you think?
right? So that was, there was an effort necessary, right? So they had to go to work or whatever they had to do to get that money to buy the ticket, right? So they can be here. So I'm putting on a show. That's my job, to make sure that they get a good show. Because, you know what I mean? Because they put their efforts and their labor somewhere in there so they can be here, right? So doesn't matter what's going on with me, I have to go and smile and do that show. Doesn't matter, because that's the job.
But like, I assume that for many people on your level, because when you start out, I guess it's easier for you to perceive everything in terms of your fans as, the individual efforts and the support they're giving you. But with the time, I can assume that once you get famous and you start generating buzz and stuff like that, this sort of stuff, it's getting, taken for granted, and people, and musicians see fans more as a number, so whatever. Like, what do you think, prevents people such as yourself and other people who always keep on top of the head the importance and the responsibility that they have towards the individuals that support them to, never take off their eyesight from that?
Well, it's this idea of, you're in a fortunate situation, but what is really happening is that you have this army of supporters, and you wouldn't be in this position without them, right? So as they came, you can also lose them, right? And so if they are the ones that got you into this position, as you said, bands are getting more successful and more successful. The only thing that, as I said, if they got you in there, then in some way you kind of owe them to play those shows and pay attention, right? That at the same time, I mean, obviously, as the bands are getting bigger, it's harder and harder to pay attention to individual things because there's just so much happening. So I guess it's coming from the idea that people have this perception that you work really hard and then you made it. And then things are just,
and that's then
margaritas and, and disco balls and hammocks on the beach. And actually, no, that's when the work is even harder, right? Because it's a much bigger machinery. Every mistake now is very dangerous. If you didn't show up in a low club that you play on Thursdays, you talk to the bar owner, like, I'm sorry, Jimmy, I couldn't make it, because it's like, whatever, right? If you don't show up in a stadium or an arena, right, this is massive consequences, massive consequences. See what I mean? So the responsibilities are getting higher, and also the personal attention. Then all of a sudden, because you're in a limelight, right? For a band, it's easy to answer every email when you get 10 of them a week. Now, when I get 10,000 a week, I just not possible. So you know what I mean? So even if we wanna stay in contact and I wanna keep those relationships, very, very difficult, right? Before a show happens, right? Even here in Bulgaria, I'm gonna get about 30 messages from people I know and happen to live here or happen to be here. Like, hey man, I wanna come to the show. And then, if I didn't pay attention, I accidentally left somebody off the guest list or whatnot, now we have an upset person, right? So even that stuff, as you're going through the world, your circle and the people that you know is getting larger and larger, and it's very difficult to really pay attention to. So, sometimes I skip something. I'm like, oh man, because I can't I can't look at everything. Somebody, photographer wanted to come to one of the shows and gave my crew, like, make sure that this guy comes and get his passes and whatnot. And they put these passes into the, the box office. But then they forgot to send him a message like it's in the box office. Right? So it was there. He shows up and ended up not being able to take pictures. Right? because somebody missed that, like, hey, just send him a message that it's there, that's all. And that happens, you know. And but it still upsets me though. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's like,
obviously.
man, you know.
You did your. You
But
did
I can only do what I can do.
obviously, of course.